And so this is the website that we're looking to mock up using Flexbox. And let's go ahead and open up Visual Studio. And let me open my folder. And start with a blank page. And so, the requirements, there are requirements on here. I would say there's a little room for subjectivity. But we'll go ahead and start out with a wrapper div, and it did say to,
you're not screen sharing.
The lab says to, have a container, a Flexbox container that's 100% viewport height. So let's just focus, before we even get into the CSS, let's just focus on the markup, and then we can get into the CSS. So header, a nav bar, be able to Alt-Tab back and forth. Inside of my wrapper, I see a header, I see a nav bar, and just for now, I'll just put the word header just so we can build this out. Nav. It does say an aside and a main. Now to get these next to one another, without using any other positioning, we're probably going to want a Flexbox around these two columns, right? So I'm going to put one box around these two columns. This would be my main, this would be my aside, and I'll have one box to go around them, maybe something along the lines like this.
Mr. G.
So I have one parent to both my main and my aside, and that's not necessarily represented in the mockup. However, to get this aside bar next to my main, I'm going to want to do a row there with a Flexbox parent. And then after that, still inside of my wrapper, we'll do footer. And so obviously kind of out of the gate here, this isn't going to look like much. All we really have is a bunch of block level elements and no CSS. And so as I like to do, I like to write embedded style when I'm developing. It's just nice for me. I like embedded style as I'm developing a page, and then I move it to external once it's kind of flushed out. So I'll go ahead and make a styles.css document, and I'll link to it. Now let me go ahead. I'll keep my media queries in here because this is mobile first, as we discussed in a prior discussion. And so the styles that we write here are going to be for everything under the 600 pixels, and then bigger than that we'll write the styles in here for the minimum width of 600 pixels. And so just to kind of demo how this would work is we could just change the body's background color just to demo that the media query is working. So here we've got the background color, and as we shrink the browser size, it goes to a different color, demonstrating that our media query is working. And we got our tool here. The other day this was not working for me, but thankfully it is. I don't know what my mobile view now is in fact working like it should. So even you could see the dimension as you browse above 600, it changes that background color. So you can kind of see the dimensions right here as we're changing it. That's great. So since we're supposed to be doing a mobile first, I suppose we go ahead and style this how we would want. So I guess, you know, the quick conversation goes, well, how might you style this for mobile first? And if we kind of browse it down here, the idea behind mobile first is that this is where you start. You start mobile first. And so, you know, me personally, I look at the lab and I go, oh, I want to style the website to look like this. But concept is mobile first. That's the idea. Let's do the mobile first layout with CSS before. And again, it's not necessarily all too hard, because here all we have are some divs, and we can fill them with content. And with a mobile first, really, you just have one column, and that's what we have here, is we have one column. So really what you would need to do is fill this up with content and make it look good in the column. So let's do that. I mean, I can fill this up with dummy content real quick. And kind of looking here, we've got a logo, so we've got an image and a heading inside of our header. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Yes. As soon as I saw my notification. There you go. Sorry, guys. You know what? My speakers. Oh. My speakers weren't turned on. Can someone say something so I can hear you?
Yeah, we've been trying to hail you.
Yeah, my bad. My speakers, my receiver, I kicked my receiver and it turned my speakers off. Okay. So what have you missed so far? Just a quick recap. I've got a wrapper, I've got a header, a nav, a section, a main, and an aside. And that's my HTML. And my CSS, I don't have much other than I've got some styles for mobile first, and I've got styles for 600 pixels or more right now. And that's where this is at. So I was going to start filling this up with dummy content. Now, for images, if you're looking for placeholder content, there's placehold, I believe, .it. There we go. Placehold.co. It's same idea. Simple, fast, free image placeholder service. So I can use this image placeholder service, and you can copy an image, and this would be 400 pixels by 400 pixels. So let's go into here. Let's put our header, and what we'll do is inside of our header, we'll put that image source, call that logo, and you can begin to see what that looks like. That's a pretty big image, and we have not really talked about how to make images responsive yet. For now, I'll just make an image a little bit smaller so that it looks decent in mobile, and you can blow it up and it's still the same logo, and it kind of works well in both. But we will talk about responsive images and how to make that image grow with the page, okay? Even though right now we're not going to do that. And then also in the header, a heading that says company logo, company name here. And the question then becomes, in the mobile version, do we want the company name to go underneath it? That's fine by me. So then we have a nav bar. So in the wrapper, we've got a header and an H1. And the nav, we'll do an unordered list, LI. We'll just do 5 links. Dummy links. And I already know, even though I said I was going to write embedded, I started writing external, which is fine. So let's go into the unordered list. We'll just say the unordered list inside of the nav. Get rid of the bullets. Let's say so really what I'm going for here is just a single column layout in my mobile view. And it turns out that's pretty easy because a lot of things are block level elements. They kind of go top to bottom anyways. I'm not really going to do too much positioning at the moment. I guess let's go ahead and target the wrapper. Give it a width of, let's just say 90%, 90 viewport width. Height is 100 viewport height. Margin 0 auto. Kind of pushes things off the edge a little bit. And gives us a scroll bar here when the page is full. Or when it's 100% height. So let's look inside of main. Let's move it inside of to the content inside of main.
You target the wrapper for viewport height of 100. Is that?
Viewport height 100. Yep.
Okay, because I know in lab
it says body.
It says body.
And that's fine. That's fine. Inside, okay, so what are we in? We're in main. Main has a top and main has a bottom. So inside of main, just to make those sections, I'll do section ID of top, section ID of bottom. Section ID of top, section ID of bottom, and then we've got 3 paragraphs inside of the top section. Let's see if I can P times 3. There we go. Get lorem ipsum in here. And take a look. Okay, so now we've got a main with 3 paragraphs. And the bottom has products. So probably, and there's, trying to think of the most semantic tag we could put for a product. I guess we could just do a div. Div times 3. And this is inside of bottom. And so let's go ahead and grab another image for each one of our products. If I find my image tag, and we can make it one product and then we can just replicate it, actually, excuse me, 4 times. So again, looking at the mock-up, we got an image and a heading, an image and a heading, and an image and a heading, and an image and a heading. So let's put an image.
The one you could try is article, even though it's technically not really an article, but that would probably be the closest one.
Yeah, that's an idea. Something better than a div.
Sometimes I'll also do an unordered list there
It's a good idea.
that has
A list of products.
Yeah, a list of products.
Yeah.
Say each product is a list item, but that
Yep.
requires a little bit more CSS.
Yep. And so those are ideas. You could do an unordered list of products, or an article, even though.
Article's an easy one. It just works the same as a div.
And then let's go ahead and do smaller H2. Product 1. Okay, so obviously we got product 1, product 2, product 3, product 4. All right. Now, I believe the lab has some details about maybe does it say the aside must be placed above the main on mobile devices? Which is nice because we've got main as a child and we've got the aside as a child, so we just have to change their order. And so kind of to look at this, inside of our section, our 2 children are main and aside. So if we target our section, let's just give this a section ID of left call. And so if we target left call and we say display flex, it's going to put them in a row, which is left call copy section ID left call. So main. Oh, I'm sorry. I got the wrong place because there's only main inside of there. I need to target main. I was looking at the section. I need to look at main because there's top and then there's our products. Oh, there's a side. There's a side and there's main. There's really nothing in the aside yet, but I was right. The section has main and the aside. And so let me go back to my section. I was right. Let me bring that back. Left call. Left call. Let me look here. Okay, my aside is, okay. So my main and my aside are next to each other, which is what you would expect. But let's go ahead and do flex direction column. And now that gets my aside back beneath my main. But it says it wants the aside above the main. So we do that with order. So we could say section main, which is our first flex item, and section aside. So let's say we want this to be in order 1, order 2. 2. So our aside goes above our main in mobile view. So there's our aside in mobile view, there's our main, and we are cooking. So we haven't done a whole lot with order, and so I just wanted to take a second to do that. Okay, so now we've got our main. Our main has a top, our main has a bottom. We've got products. Those products aren't very pretty right now, but they are in a column. What goes in our aside? Let's look in our aside. We've got a list of links, and we've got a paragraph. So that's nice and easy. So in our aside, let's go ahead and put our paragraph. I'll put a couple of lorem ipsums in there. And then, let's format that. So there's our, whoops. There's our paragraphs, and then we had an unordered list after that. And these links are vertical. So UL times 4. Worth noting, we should also put this in a nav tag. UL LI times 4. And we already styled our lists inside of navs to have a list style type of none. So back here, here's our aside links. Mobile first, aside goes there. There's our aside links. Column format, company name, everything's looking good in this mobile first view. So then all we have left is a footer. Footer has a large piece of text and copyright name. So let's go ahead in the footer. And let's just put that in a paragraph. Copyright symbol. And then we can kind of just target the paragraph in the footer. Say font size 3 M's. Makes it a nice big font. Let's just do 2 M's. We'll do the text align center. Okay. So we did mobile first, but now we're still in a mobile first view when you hit the larger desktop view. Now, per the lab, we should have different breakpoints. And right now, I've got a breakpoint for 600 pixels. Let's reflect on the lab. Now, remember, it's 3, 6, 9, 12, 25. Now, this says use media queries 6, 12, and 25. So, let's go ahead and add these other breakpoints pretty simply. So we'll say at media screen and min width 900. 12 and copy this and say 25, and just for getting this off the ground, I'll change colors, background color, body background color. Obviously I will remove this when it's time to be finished. Go blue. I like to do that just to get it wired up, so to speak. Okay, coral. So we've got 4 different background colors. And this monitor, it's not an extra widescreen monitor. You can see it goes to about 1800. But if I mock up a extra wide monitor, we get this 2600 background color. So let's check out the breakpoints here as I scale down to 24. 12 is for your standard, 12 and up is your standard monitor. Then you get down into tablets and mobile devices. Now it doesn't really say, like at these various breakpoints, what style changes you need to do. I'm going to focus on this one that's basically my monitor is kind of showing the desktop view at this minimum width of 1200 pixels. I'm going to hold off on the 2500 pixels, and I'll come back to the 600 pixels as well. What you do in this lab at each one of these breakpoints is flexible, but let's focus on the 1200 pixels because we know that that's kind of my monitor's width as far as the breakpoint is concerned. And so now we can focus on writing our CSS in here. And what do we have? Well, now this header, the website name and the logo go next to each other. They're essentially in a row. So I'm going to take the header and I'm going to tell the header to display flex at this breakpoint, and you're going to see when you go down to a certain level, it's going to go into a single column, but then you break that breakpoint and it goes into a row. And I might justify content, something space between, space around, maybe something like this. And then we could do align items center, something like this. And so here's our header now, working responsively. Next we have dummy links in our nav bar. And so the thing here is that, again, in our nav bar, we need to display flex. Excuse me, nav. This is nav inside of this is our unordered list inside of our nav. There we go. Get my selector right. And we'll do justify content, space around. So we get our links. This is our aside, keeping in mind. Now, at this breakpoint, we want our aside, which our selector is section aside. We basically want to flip these, right? So we want main. We'll change the order back to 0 on both of them. So our two selectors are selector main and selector aside. So I'm just going to change them back to default. Select select section main, section aside. Change the order of both of them back to 0, which should put, yeah, it puts the main back on top of the aside, because that's kind of their default order in that. So this changes the order back to the defaults, and the default order is the order that they're found in the HTML, top to bottom. Let's see, the ID of top needs to be a display flex so that all 3 of these paragraphs can be in a row. So I'll go top, display flex. And now you can see my paragraphs are in a row. My bottom, these are my 4 children, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to tell bottom to display flex. This one might require a little bit more work. So let's target bottom. Display flex. I know I'm going to do flex wrap to wrap. And I'm going to do bottom div width of, I just want to give each div a width of 400 pixels. So let's look at this. So let's do something like, okay, so when I give each div, and this gets them into that grid kind of format. What am I needing to do? What am I missing here? Well, you might notice that the aside is not next to my main right now. So before I continue on my products, I got to tell left call. Left call has 2 children, main and aside. So I have to tell left call to display flex. So I'm going to hold off on this bottom top idea. And I'm going to tell left call to display flex. And I'm going to hold off on this bottom section right now. So there's my products, and then this is my aside. So I'm making a mistake because my left call is not displaying flex. So left call has main and an aside. Let me inspect into this real quick. Find my mistake. It is displaying flex. Oh, okay. From my earlier, I told my left call to be a column. I told my left call to be a flex direction column. I need to change that flex direction back into row. Keep in mind the default is row, so I changed it in mobile, so I need to change it back in desktop. Now we're cooking. Now my main is next to my left call. And so we're getting pretty close. What I need to do is get these into more of a grid format, which I started to do earlier, and a few more cleanup tasks. So we've got 4 products and we want them in a grid. I started working on this a little bit earlier and I think I just commented it out. But no, I actually got rid of it. So let's go back into my products. So here's bottom, and then each div is inside of bottom. So let's target bottom. And display flex on bottom. And we'll do flex wrap of wrap. And then we did bottom div with a 50%. And keep in mind, now that we have, what's up, Emil?
That 50%, what is that reference?
It's 50% of its parent. So what you'll notice here, if I kind of dive down into left call main and bottom, so it is 50% of the parent. What is the parent? The parent is the section with the ID of bottom. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I see.
Yep. So yeah, that's this div is 50% of the section that it's in. And so now there's align content. Now that we have, flex wrap, to align things up on the cross axis, we use align content now, similar to how we use justify content. So let's do align content center. See the changes. And that's on the bottom. Align content center. Okay, and that kind of let's take that out. And let's also I just want to move these, let's see. Wrapper, section, main. Yeah, those two properties didn't do anything for me. Let me pull this back up. Items are centered on the cross axis. I guess this is the caveat why it didn't work. When there's extra space in the cross axis, I don't think there is. Okay, I can tinker with that a little bit more. That's not super important in the context of just getting this run through, at least at a high level. What is left, really, getting these products centered, I'll come back to that. On my aside, I do have the paragraphs above the links. I want to change those links back to a column. So here, let's see. I want to see my aside. What's going on right now? Okay, this unordered list inside of my aside is displaying flex. And so really all I have to do is target that unordered list inside of my aside nav UL and change its direction to be column. So my selector is going to be the aside tag, the nav tag inside of that, and then the UL tag inside of that. And so we go aside nav UL, flex direction column, and there we go. I realized that this was what I would call a crash tutorial. I wanted to make this quick to get you, seeing how I might approach this problem. I realize this is not a yet pretty website, but the prettiness is coming. We will get pretty, but right now we're just getting functioning, responsive websites. All right, and I also realized I went through that pretty quick, so it's going out on YouTube, so you'll be able to review it.